Let's get Karen on here. Karen, if you're there, feel free to jump on. Dr. Karen Sutherland is an award-winning social media and public relations educator, researcher, and consultant at the University of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. Karen has more than 20 years of industry experience in marketing, public relations, communication roles. She's previously worked for ABC TV, Fremantle Media, and Monash University. She currently coordinates USC's Bachelor of Communication. She connects social media students to business owners from the Sunshine Coast University who seek social media support, and delivers social media workshops and coaching sessions to clients in Australia and overseas. She's all over social media, very active. So if you're looking at a great example of what you can do as a professor or educator on social media, Karen's a great example of what to do. We're excited to hear from her today. So Karen, I'm gonna just go away and let you take the show.
Thank you. First, can you take the ProfCon 2020 down because it's still on my screen? Thank you.
Yes,
there you go. Thank you.
Got me there?
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And I know it's early morning for you, but it's 1 a.m. here in Australia, but that's okay. I've had lots of tea to get going. So I'm really excited to be able to share with you the processes that I've developed over the last few years in pairing social media students with real clients from the local business community. So I know it's not a new thing, but for my university on the scale that I do it now, it is quite a new and innovative way for students to gain practical experience and build relationships with our local industry. So first up, I'll go through what I'll cover today. So I'll explain why I came up with this as a solution and what I was trying to solve. Then I will talk about the different stages I go through when I'm trying to put this initiative into play. So there's a number of steps that I do, and they didn't all come about straight away. It came through trial and error over a number of years, but I've managed to refine it now and roll it out to other courses too. So I'll share those with you. I'll also talk about the fact that there are challenges, of course, so I'm not going to deny those, but just talk about those and some solutions to overcome those, and of course the benefits, and then we'll go through some questions if you have them. So firstly, when I arrived on the Sunshine Coast from Melbourne at the beginning of 2015, and there were two things that were happening that led me to come up with this idea. So firstly, we had graduates contacting me after, they had graduated and they weren't finding employment very easily. We're in quite a regional area, a beautiful part of the world, but the job market is quite small here. But the same thing was coming across when they were going to interviews. And the fact was that they were being told they did not have enough practical experience to be given the roles. And so that was an issue. And the difference with our cohort here in the university where I am, they're not that, normally for us, for an undergraduate degree, it's the main cohort is between 18 and 21 years of age, but it's a bit more diverse here where we have a lot of mature age students who have families. Even the younger students are juggling multiple jobs to support themselves while they study. And some people actually have full-time jobs while they're studying as well. So for them to be able to go and get extra experience, do extra internships was actually quite challenging for them, particularly when they couldn't really afford to do that, or they just didn't have the extra time to do that. So that was a challenge. The other thing that was happening was that I was being inundated with requests from local business owners who wanted a student to help them with their social media. And so while I think that's a great idea, I have to be very careful with that because sometimes it can throw up a whole lot of other challenges in terms of students working for free and not getting much out of it at the end. So I thought, look, what can I do so I can sort of do something for both sides of it? And that's why I came up with embedding more client work into the social media courses. So that way students will get that practical experience to put on their CV. They'll be able to develop a folio of real work, and we can also support the local business community. And the students aren't working for free; they're actually gaining credit for towards their degree. So I started this first in 2017. We rolled out what we call a social media minor. So that was 4 social media courses. And I started it with a course called Social Media Content Curation and Creation. And with that, it was a small cohort for the first round. It was about 55 students in the first round of that course. And the assignments in that were, the first one that is focused on content curation. So they're developing a blog post and bringing in those articles and things, but that's without using a client. But the second and third assessments were developing a social media strategy and then developing 5 pieces of social media content to support the goals of that strategy. And one of those pieces has to be a video. So with that, I thought that was the perfect opportunity to try out this client work in the course. And so it's worked really well in the sense that we had 55 students in 2017, and now I'm about to ramp it up again, and we have 120 now, so a few years on. So the course keeps growing, and I keep learning how to scale it. So I'm sure that will throw up other challenges as we get bigger. But let me start with my processes around that. So first of all, preparation, I learned along the way, is essential. And it's really looking at that student to client ratio. So for me, I pair 1 student with 1 local business owner. And I think if the course keeps growing as it is, I think I may have to change to group work. But at this stage, I do that for this particular course. And the next thing I did was go and talk to the office at our university. It's called the Work Integrated Learning Department. So this is the office of the area of the university that organises things like placements and internships, just to find out the legalities, the insurance details and things like that. So that area is really fundamental and should be your first point of call if you're deciding to embed this sort of work into your courses. So I did that, and then I thought about how I was going to attract the client. So I needed a registration form that I could send to them, and I'll go through how I send that out in just a sec. But I used a Google form and captured the following information. So, their organisation, the type of organisation, those sorts of things, their email. They had to also identify 2 goals that they wanted to achieve with their social media. So that could give the student a starting point on what to actually research about. I also give the students the opportunity to select their own client if they want to. They have up to 3 weeks to do that before I put the public call out for clients, so that, with the courses, I want it to be as useful as possible to them. And if they have their own business, or they say are doing an internship somewhere, maybe they volunteer for a local not-for-profit, they're most welcome to actually use that as their client if they want to. So I make sure the student's name is on that form as well, so I don't give that client to someone else once we do the assigning of clients in the class. So I created this Google form, which has a number of uses, which I will explain. On the form as well, apart from, I also have an area where the business owner has to tick to say that they don't mind being communicated with. And I do that sparingly, but I still communicate with them throughout the process. I make sure that this is also on the form, just to ensure that they understand that they need to be in contact with the student. The student will drive the communication, but they need to be responsive to help that student do their assignment. So they tick a box with this little statement on it, just to understand that they need to be active in the process as well. And we also invite them to an event at the end of the semester to say thank you. So just to let them know that that's coming. So once the form is created, I then create a bit.ly link, or it can be any of those sort of link shortening tools that you want to use. And then I customize it to whatever year, just to make it a bit neater when I'm sending out the link. And so once I have the form and the link ready, then I write a little blog post. So it's just, I have a WordPress site, which has been really helpful to me to facilitate this whole process. So it just provides more context around what the initiative is and really what's in it for the client, also managing the expectations of the client, saying this is exactly what they will receive at the end. And then they understand what the process is. I let them know the time frame, just the main details of what will happen throughout the semester. I also link the registration form in there in a number of places, particularly in that first section. So if they read what they need to and then can click on it, but it's also down the bottom as well, so they can read through and click down there too, so that they can register. And so here's an example of the blog post. So I've sort of cut it up to fit it on the slide, but it's quite a short blog post, but it has the main details in there. I also include my email address so that they can contact me if they want to ask more about the initiative as well. And then I begin the promotion. So if you think so far, we've got the Google form, we've got the blog post, and then I start to ramp up the promotion. So it's normally, what I found, the first time I ran it, I was actually quite nervous about whether I was going to get enough businesses to sign up in time. And so I didn't really need to worry. In the first time I ran it, I needed about 50 clients, and that took 2.5 days. I'm sorry, my cat's walking around. So that took about 2.5 days to actually get those registrations. And then on the second time I ran it, there was, I think, 75, and it was the same amount of time. So I normally wait. So I give the students enough time to sign up, and I keep letting them know they need to do it then. Like, for example, next Friday is the cutoff for the students to sign up if they want to use their own client. But on Monday, this coming Monday, I will start this process now. So I've already written the blog post and have the form. And then I will post it on my Facebook business page. I'll put it on LinkedIn, and I'll put it on Twitter as well. If you don't have a huge following on your Facebook page and there is funding, it's also a really good idea to, you can do some Facebook ads where you can actually target your local area and business people in your local area as well, if you can do that. It doesn't take a lot of money, and it's also quite effective in reaching the people that you need to. Another good way to promote is, I know here in Australia, I'm sure it's the same where you are, that we have local community Facebook groups, and often posting in there is quite targeted as well. It's easier for students to have clients that live locally. Well, it is for this course anyway, because when they create the content for their third assignment, we really encourage them to actually go out and work with the client, and we make sure they have all the insurance and everything, and the client checks out as well. But we just, I just find when there's a huge distance between the student and the client, it's just a bit more problematic. Okay, so I've got the form, I've promoted it and signed up. Another way is to, so not just rely on social media, even though that's been the most effective way for me to find clients. I also email the article to different industry contacts that I have. So in particular, we have the Sunshine Coast Council, and the business development manager there has about 26,000 businesses on her database. And so I have forged a good relationship with her, and I will send the article and the registration form to her, and she will send it out as well, just to cast the net as widely as possible. Another way that's been effective, particularly the first time I ran it, was contacting the media office of my university, because it's a really good news story if you think about it, because it's helping students learn, and it's promoting engagement with the local community. So they created a media release. The first time I ran it, I had to try everything to sort of get the momentum going. And so they ran a media release for me and sent that out, and we did get some media coverage of that. And they also posted it on their Facebook group, which was their Facebook page, which they had many more followers than I do, and that managed to get a lot of people in as well. And it also provides that extra endorsement of what you're doing. So the beauty of the Google registration form is that you can actually monitor the registrations in real time. And sometimes I must admit, when we're getting close to the wire, I get quite obsessive, a lot of refreshing to make sure that we get the number that we need to. But it's good to just keep an eye on it so you know what else you need to do to sort of ramp up that promotion. And the main thing is that once you have the right number, that you need to turn the form off, because what I found in my first run of this was that I didn't turn the form off, and so we were inundated with registrations, and I didn't want to disappoint people, so I would do, I did something for them, like I'll explain later. I just gave them something of value, some time, some social media advice, just to so they didn't feel disappointed, because I couldn't match. There were many more businesses than students at that stage. So make sure once you've got the right number to turn the form off. Then the other thing to do is also on any posts that you've created, like Facebook posts, or even tweet again to say thank you, we have enough now. And even on the blog post, I normally put like a little red sort of few lines of writing to say that we have enough clients now and thank you, or I just private the blog post so no one else can see it, just to to sort of ramp it up when you need it, and then pull it back once you have the number of clients that you need. The next step is all about communication. And so really how this whole initiative works is the communication of it is the cornerstone. And that's communication between you and the client. It's communication between you and your students, and it's communication between the students and the clients. So particularly in terms of client communication, I make sure that I communicate with them at different stages throughout the semester to let them know what's going on. And I've got a list of those stages in a second. The way that I do that, particularly when I'm sending the same email out to the entire group of clients, I use MailChimp. What's great with that is that you can actually import the Google form into MailChimp. So it needs a little bit of cleaning up. I tend to just leave, I don't include all of the information when I bring it into MailChimp. I only include things like the person's first name, their business name, and their email address, because that's when I'm sending stuff out, that's really all that I need, and the rest just remains on the Google form. It's just proved to be a real time saver for me, particularly as the numbers, started to grow. In the first run of this course, I didn't use it, so there were 55, and I found like when I sent an email out, the same email out to all of them, I could either just BCC them, but it wasn't very personable, and or I could send it directly, like individually, and that was very labor intensive. So MailChimp was really great in doing that. And the other thing is, because they've already agreed to receive communication on that form, I keep that. I keep the MailChimp database from each semester. And when I first put a call out to clients, I send it to that database first, because these are people who have already shown interest. And so I give them first run, a first chance to sign up again before I go public with it. So it just works really well. And there's so far I haven't had to pay for MailChimp at all. It's been all just using the free sides of that tool. Now, these are the times that I communicate with the clients throughout the semester. So generally after the registrations close, I will send them an email and just say thank you for registering and explain the timeline. So normally the following week after registrations close, they're paired with a student. So I let them know about that and let them know that they will be hearing from their assigned student very soon. Depending on the semester, so in this coming semester, it's quite a tight turnaround, so I won't need to email them the first and second points. They'll only receive one email, but in the past, there's been a few weeks where I'll let them know again what's going on, that they're about to be matched up with a student. Then I send them a message via MailChimp after each assignment is due. So after the assessment 2, which is the strategy, has been submitted, I will let them know that it's been submitted and that students have been working really hard, and they'll begin to work on the content very soon. And the final email is where we actually send the client the strategy and the content. So just a bit on that. In our course guide, or syllabus as it's also known, we actually have it written that, that the student will the client will receive the student's work at the end of it. And out of the 4 years or 3.5 years that we've run this particular initiative, I've only ever had one student not happy about that. And so instead they we learned from the start they weren't happy with that. So we worked out, I think they just used like an imaginary client because that was fine. That was their decision. But all students are quite happy for that to happen. To do that, I actually have help because that has to be an individual email. And so what we do as well, we do a spell check on it before we send it out. We don't change any of the tactics or anything like that, but just to make sure that, because every now and again a student will misspell the client's business name, and so that just looks really bad. So we just go through and do a spell check and save it as a PDF and send that out with the content. Students they put in a document, so it's all mocked up on what it would look like on the client's channels, and then they upload the actual files into, say, Google Drive folder or Dropbox folder, so that is accessible for the client. So we send that together. I have a staff member who helps me with that because now it's such a large number of clients, and we include the student in the email as well, just so that they can continue to communicate with their client and the student if they want to. Now, communication with between the students and the clients. Before I move on, I also have to say that with the clients, when I communicate with them, I also ask them to let me know if they haven't heard from their student, because most of the students are really good, but every now and again there'll be a student who tries to get around the assessment without ever interacting with their client, and that's actually a requirement. So I'll just put a call out so I can sort of keep tabs on what's going on there. Now, with the communication between student and client, we include it as a class activity in the first instance. So firstly, they send an email asking with a list of questions, but asking to arrange a time to call their client to actually ask those questions, because it's too much. I mean, these are business owners who don't have time to sit down and write lengthy emails. So doing things over the phone is much easier for them. And students need to learn that they have to be very client-centric and customer-centric if they're going to, work in this particular field. And so it can be, this is really where students become quite scared about the whole process, but it's a really joy sort of guiding them through and gaining their confidence, because for many, they've never had to really interact and do anything real. And the communication side of it and communicating one-to-one to someone they haven't communicated with before can be very daunting, but they get through it with help, and we coach them. So during class, we help them when they're sending their emails. We encourage them to pick up the phone and call their clients. They're allowed to do that in class, and we coach them on how to do that and the appropriate way to do that. And we also encourage students, if they don't hear from their client within 3 days of their email, to pick up the phone. And picking up the phone can be the greatest challenge. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get students to do that, but once they gain their confidence with that, it's really worthwhile. So you can see here, we have a Facebook group, so I regularly send out reminders to contact their clients. So we encourage the communication between student and client through different stages of the process as well. Now, in terms of allocation or assigning the students and the clients, what we do, as I said, the students have up to 3 weeks to choose their own. And what I do is then I print out all of the registration forms, which I know isn't great, the environment, but when it's a huge number of students, it's very hard to send students individual emails when there's like 120, because that's what we'd have to do. So I will hopefully find a better way to do this in future. But what I do is I print out the forms, I fold them up, and we use the lucky dip method, which I'm not sure in the States or wherever you are if you have lucky dips. But in Australia, if you go to a fair as a child, there will be a girls and a boys lucky dip, or a, non-gender lucky dip, where you pay like $2 and you pick something out that's wrapped up and it's a little toy or something. You just don't know what you're going to get. So that's why I call it the lucky dip method. And so what we do is we do that. We bring the box into class, and so students who have already said they want to work with someone, they get their registration form. We work that out beforehand. But the students who are happy to pick, they just pick randomly, and that's their client. So of course, sometimes the client they pick isn't suitable for them. So we had a student a couple of years ago who her client was an IVF clinic, and her religious beliefs didn't sit well with her. So of course we allowed her to select another one. But the thing is, with this random selection, you really have to talk students into the benefits of doing that. The fact that it will push them creatively, and it will help them to gain skills in research, because they're going and working with a business that they have absolutely no experience with. So it's actually a real plus that they do that. We have online students as well, and so I randomly select on their behalf and then email them the client form. But we have many more on-campus students than online students. Okay, so that's the process. I also, with the Google form, clearly when the students are assigned their clients, we add the student's name into that Google form so that we know who is with who. Now, the challenges. So managing client expectations. So some of our clients, as soon as they see that they'll have to, they'll be working with a student, they think they can get that student to redesign their website, to do all their marketing and things like that. So we have to be very clear and look out for that student and let them know, the client know what the student will do and what the student won't do. Because at the beginning, even though we've written it all down, some clients don't read that. And so we have to be very clear about that. The other thing can be lack of communication, and it can be between client and student and vice versa. So sometimes students don't communicate with their clients, sometimes clients don't communicate with their students. So we need to work out ways to make that happen. Sometimes I step in and ask, and contact whoever's not communicating, or ring them, or work out a way. But overall, they're pretty good. Like they tend to enjoy the process. Clients who are time poor mixed with clients who leave their work until the last minute. So there are those students who do that. So what needs to be explained in the beginning is that the client cannot drop everything on the day that the assignment is due to help that student. And so we begin the process 4 weeks out from when the assignment's due, that they need to be in contact and work with that client from and going forward for those weeks, because it's really important that they understand that, and that working with clients, you work around the client, not vice versa. And with the clients who are time poor, so sometimes clients just sort of disappear, or they're not very responsive, and so we work with the student to work out a way that they can still hand in their assignments without the client being as involved as we would have liked. But there are ways around that. Students who discontinue the course. So this can be difficult when the client is really excited about working with a student, and then the student decides not to keep going with the course. So to avoid disappointment, I offered the client something. So when the numbers were smaller, I would offer, say, a free coaching session where we just have a Zoom meeting and I'd give them some critique on their social media channels and activities. So it would be half an hour or something like that. Last year, because the course was larger, I actually ran a workshop and invited all the clients who didn't end up being matched with a student. And that went really well. So we did a social media workshop for them. And that was like an hour. There was about 20 local businesses, and it was actually a really nice activity. The other thing is ensuring students do not post any content publicly without their client's permission. So I thought I expressed that explicitly, but in the first year I had a student who was paired with a real estate agent, and they decided to hand in their assignment by using the real estate agent's branding and logo and recreating channels on Facebook and Instagram, and then posting live their content on those channels. And so that was not good. So giving students the tools to be able to mock it up and show them how to mock up the social media content if that's what they're going to be doing. So there's tools like Ad Parlor, and even in Facebook Creator Studio, you can mock up ads and Facebook posts and Instagram posts and things like that. So just showing them and explaining why you can't do that. And your workload, it is like, it can be quite intense in the beginning. I think too, I was also quite worried about the process, and now I have a lot more faith in it because I've done it for a few years. So, and it seems to work fine. So, but you need to really plan in the beginning and see if you can actually get some help. For me, the greatest amount of time comes with the beginning, when you're organising the clients and you're creating the database and things like that. And then at the end, when you're sending out the the student work, if that you're going to include that in the process. So that's the most labour intensive. So thinking about how you can get some assistance or the best way to do that is a good thing to do as well. Now the benefits, so there are many, and so it is labour intensive, but I really enjoy the benefits of that. Sorry, this is my cat's whiskers. The benefits that come from doing this process. So firstly, you actually get to see students applying theory to practice, and they get real experience. So skills that sometimes they don't seem to learn until they're out working. So how to pick up the phone and call someone they don't know in a business-like way, how to write emails, and just how to do that client work. They end up with great experience they can actually put on their CVs, and real examples of work with a client that they can include in a portfolio. So that's a benefit. You actually get to help the local community as well, and the students enjoy that too. So even with the businesses and nonprofits, even if this client provides they're not going to use it exactly, I've been told that the businesses actually get some really great ideas just from going through the process with the student. We build really strong relationships over time. So, I'm probably 50% of them, I'm still waiting for them to come in, but at the moment I put a call out to the previous clients, and already 50% of those have signed up again this year. So it's really great to build these ongoing relationships with industry. And for some, I know in our local community, it's the first time they've even had anything to do with the university. So that's a real plus, I think. And then finally, one of my favourite benefit of all is when students are employed by their clients at the end of the semester. And this happens quite frequently. The student is employed by either their client or another student's client who's seen their work, and that's really really great. So they get to then do freelance work in the field that they want to actually work in while they're still studying. So you can't ask for more than that. The other thing is I've managed now. So now I'll include this process in 4 other social media courses that we run here at the University of the Sunshine Coast. And so these are smaller courses, but we use the same process in a social media analytics course, transmedia storytelling campaigns, although that's group work, and a social media management course as well. And there's another course that we do it for as well. So that's been really great. What we've done as well as an extra value add for the clients in the larger course is at the end of the semester, we run a networking event. And so we invite all the students from the course as well as all the clients from the course. It doesn't really cost a lot. We used to use a room at the university, which is free of charge. We managed to get some money to do a little bit of catering. We display student work on a projector screen, so the clients can see other students' work as well. And we also find out ahead of time what students would be interested in gaining freelance work in social media. And we also find out from the clients to indicate if they're open to considering hiring a student freelancer. And what I do is I make those two groups of people wear the same colour name badge so that they can identify each other. And so the event itself goes for an hour. I explain how it works at the beginning, and then I just let people network. And it's great because often this is students' first experience with networking. And we talk about it beforehand on how to do it, and then I sort of help them and guide them throughout the process as well. And we've done this the last 2 years, where I'm starting to plan for this year. It's been a really great success. Students have been hired, and just the relationships that have formed have been really beneficial. So these are just some photos from the last 2 years. So normally about, say, 50 people come, which is a really nice sort of number. It's not too unmanageable. And so that's it. I'm sorry if I spoke very quickly. I have had a lot of caffeine because it's 1:45 in the morning here in Australia. So I just want to say thank you very much, and I'm open to any questions you may have. And here are my social channels you can find me on as well if you'd like to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. So yeah, we did have some questions come in. We have about 5 minutes or so for questions. So we'll kind of try to run through these as quickly as we can. First up, Karen, I'm not sure if you answered this and I missed it while typing this in, but do you charge or ask clients for donations?
No, I don't. I don't, because the students are getting course credit from the experience. So that's how the students are being paid and gaining that practical experience. And the clients, for their time, they receive the student work at the end. So no, we're about to set up an agency, which I don't think it will still work for that course, but it will work for some other courses. Yeah.
Okay. And then real quickly, I forgot who mentioned this, but they asked if you could go back to your manage expectations slide.
Sure. Yes, it's a big one. And
I'm not sure if there's a question involved or if it's just.
I'll just go back. And this is also a lesson to students about managing client expectations, which is probably a fundamental skill we all need to learn in all parts of our life. So yeah, so I think that's there. So it's just really stating exactly what the students will and won't do.
Great. Do you have repeat clients?
Yeah.
Have you had repeat clients? And you mentioned some ways you quality check your students' work. Well, that's a statement. You mentioned some ways you quality check your students' work. Are there other ways that you build relationships with local businesses?
Well, I do some workshops out in the community, but this is sort of a side to that. But it's mainly like I have a really great reputation now because of these initiatives. So now when clients are actually looking to pay or they've got jobs and employment, they come straight to me now. So that's a really great thing for our students. But yeah, I think I just get out and about. I speak at industry events and things like that. And I also talk at those events about the initiative. So that helps to get people in and start to build those relationships too, just creating awareness.
Great. About how many hours of work would you say your students put into this?
Well, it depends on the student. But I think the ones who really put their heart and soul into it it would have to be probably, maybe about 30 to 40 hours, I'd say, the ones who go all out. Yeah, because the the research and creating the strategy would take say 10 to 15 hours, and then the creation of the content to do it well, particularly when they're learning how to use the content creation tools, that takes time as well. For some, they've never created a video before, so this is the first time they're actually getting experience with that. Because I forgot to mention, in my social media courses, the ones in the social media minor, there are no prerequisites. So I have students from all over the university. I have accounting, engineering, nutrition, like they're coming from everywhere just to gain those social media communication skills.
Awesome. Great. You mentioned a little bit your breakdown of online and offline students. So the question is, is your class made up of both of them at the same time? And do your projects differ between an online or an in-person student?
They're at the same time, but our classes are different. So the on-campus students are just together in the tutorials. Online students, we have a Zoom session every week, and they need to complete the tutorial activities in their own time or during that session. And I'm there for them to refer to if they need assistance. So it's all the same activities, and the only thing is we use Blackboard as our learning management system, and so I make sure that is really created with the online students in mind.
Okay. And do the companies give like full control over to your students as far as giving them access to their social media accounts for posting, or how does that typically work?
No, not in this course, because it's quite an introductory course. So the student just creates the strategy and the content. They don't
sends it over to them.
We have in the final year there's a social media management course where that is the case. Yes.
Okay.
But not at this early stage. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. What precautions to take when managing expectations on the part of students, owners, and the professor?
I guess it's just being very clear, and you need to communicate that message in multiple ways, in multiple times, because you can't assume that everyone's listening to you or reading what you're saying. So you have to be you have to share that message a lot. And when you start to see like a little issue starting to arrive, just jump on it as quickly as you can before it escalates. But I haven't really had that. It's never been a major issue as part of it. So it's just being responsive, I think, and just communicating in multiple ways, multiple times. Sometimes a broken record, but it works.
Great. I think this is going to be our last question.
Oh, thanks.
There's the cat again. Yeah. Okay. So maybe just sum up the 3 things that your students spend the most time doing for the clients. Like what type of work? Maybe like the top 3 things you see them doing and succeeding in.
When they're being paid as freelancers, do you mean? Or as part of the course?
As part of the course, yeah, with this project.
It's the research is the first. There's so much research involved in the development of the strategy, so they spend a lot of time on that. The next thing would be, in terms of the content curation, would be about writing, content creation, the writing side of it, and the video production. So just learning those skills and refining those skills.
Okay. Great. Now, if you're just joining the end of this, once again, this is recorded. We'll have the slide decks available. So if you missed a screenshot or whatever, don't worry. You're going to get the slide deck when we email this out, and the video recording. So Karen, we appreciate you staying up until the wee hours of the morning in your neck of the woods. And thanks for just knowledge dropping your experience with working with clients and student projects.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me.
And then if they want to connect with you on socials, that was on your slide right there.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on everything.
Yeah. So if you want to message her today, feel free to screenshot that and let her know you enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks.